Hi, I'm designer Jen Gallagher, and welcome to the Crop and Create Delivered Blossoms and Breezes layout video number 2. In this video, I wanted to focus on this beautiful sheet of pattern paper that has a rather large image on the left side. When you're using a pattern paper like this, I don't like to take the focus necessarily off the actual image. So what I am going to use is the vellum that was included in this kit. Again, you can see that it has a nice foil finish on it. Now, when attaching vellum to your layout, you want to think about where the layers on top will go, because with vellum, anywhere you place adhesive, it's going to show through onto the top layer. So what I've done is I have two photos which I have merged together in my Photoshop, and I just want to get an idea of placement so that I can come back. I'm going to lightly hold that photo on the front there. And this is where I'm going to place my adhesive. Now I can remove that photo, and then I can mount this piece of vellum onto my layout. So there's a little bit of strategic planning when you're doing something like this. The next thing that I want to point out is we're going to do a bit of stamping. I'm going to use this little piece of white cardstock. It is from the kit, and this beautiful stamp set. Now it has a pretty happy word in script, and we're going to use a variety of different colors. These happen to be Stampin' Up! Colors, but you can use whatever colors that you have. And I just selected some that were in the colors that we're going to use on the layout. Then I placed the happy word on a clear acrylic block, which you will need to use with the stamps. And then we're going to start with the yellow stamping ink. You want to ink up your stamp, and then you want to press it into the cardstock firmly. Now don't rock the stamp, but do press firmly. And you can see that it creates a little happy word. Now I continue that in a pattern of different stamped colors. You can see here that I've done yellow. I have a light green that I did by combining the lightest blue and the yellow together. First I inked it with yellow, let it dry a little bit, and then added the light blue. Then I did the darker blue, and then I did the guava again, and then I repeated the yellow. Now that is a great way to incorporate the same colors that you have in your layout by using different colored stamping ink. Now for the actual layout, I'm going to place all the layers on top so you can see what it's going to look like before I adhere everything onto the page. The first thing I wanted to add was a tag behind the photo. So we'll go ahead and attach that. Again, I'm just loosely holding that photo in place so I can get an idea of placement. I'm aligning the two corners of this tag right here with that vellum. To the top of that tag, I have pre-cut a piece of that chevron yellow ribbon, and you'll see that I have one edge that is pointed. That makes it easier to thread it through the actual tag. We're just going to tie this into a knot. Before I do that, something fun that you can do is I'm going to take the paper clip. It is the heart paper clip, and I'm going to thread it onto the ribbon. Now I'm going to thread it so you can see most of the heart, so I'm just going to thread along the outside edge, and then I will tie my ribbon into a knot. So think about if there's something that you can add to your ribbons or your textured pieces, your twine. Is there something you can tie to it? Now let's go ahead and add this photo. Again, I merged two photos into smaller photos, and then as one piece. And then you'll notice that I left the white edge around the photos. You could also just use photos that you have, crop them down, and mount them on the white cardstock that comes with the kit. I'm going to cut this particular stamped banner to have a pinked edge, and then we'll attach this right below the photo. And then I always turn over my layout, and I'm going to follow that edge of the pattern paper and use the scissors to trim it perfectly off the edge, or you could do this step beforehand and just measure it out. The next piece that I'm going to add is I had some craft cardstock. This is not included in the kit. This is something I brought in from my stash, and I'm going to cut it at a diagonal, and this is the journaling. And it talks about going to a wedding and watching this family be joined together. So I want to attach that. One thing I was thinking about when I printed this journaling is that I left a space on the right side of the journaling right here, and you'll see why later. I am going to place an embellishment there, and I knew that, so I left it blank. Then, because I want to bring in some additional yellow, I just took a very thin strip of the yellow cardstock, which is included in the kit, and I'm going to leave this one flat. Now, when I have a long piece like this, I will do a piece of pattern paper or spare piece of printer paper behind it so that when I add my adhesive, it doesn't get on the page. Make sure to discard that pattern paper because you don't want it sticking to any of your projects. Now, when I'm placing different layers of pattern paper or cardstock strips, I altered the width and the length and the height to just make things look differently. You also notice on this left edge that none of them are meeting up together, and that is on purpose. That's how I wanted it to look. Then, as you're noticing in the pattern paper, on the bottom of the pattern papers, they often have information on one side of the pattern paper, and you trim this off. But American Crafts does this fun thing where they have a strip of pattern paper that coordinates with the collection. And I'm going to go ahead and use this teal one that I cut off from one of the stitched pattern papers included in the collection. And it's a great way to bring in just another pop of color. Again, we're just kind of changing up where everything falls on the page and trimming off the excess. Now, in the die cut folder that comes with this particular kit is this butterfly. And you'll notice that it matches the butterfly on the stamp. See the little polka dots in this butterfly stamp? That is what inspired the die cut. So this first die cut I cut from yellow, and to poke the holes out, because they were very small, they were kind of sticking together, I suggest taking a paper piercer and just poking through those holes, and then I scraped off the extra pieces on the back. We will go ahead and adhere this with a glue dot. And again, remember I left this spot kind of open on the journaling, and this is why I already knew that I wanted to bring in one of these die cut butterflies. When cutting this particular shape, do be aware that the polka dots are small. So you want to make sure you are not making the image so tiny that those holes don't show up. I'll show you an option in just a bit that you can do so that it doesn't matter how big the holes are, but for this particular one, it is about 2¼ inches by about 2¼ inches. So it's about 2¼ inches wide and square. Now, in this particular layout, I wanted to layer butterflies, and so I'm going to take a punch. It's American Crafts punch. It's a 1½ inch butterfly, and from the blue cardstock in the kit, I punched out an extra butterfly. We'll go ahead and adhere that to the other butterfly, and I'm folding up the wings to give it a little bit of dimension. You can see it just creates a little bit of movement on the page. Then to the center of the butterfly, let's add one of these flowers. They are clear and they do not have adhesive, so I'm using a glue dot to place them. We'll place that right in the center of the butterfly. So there's how the butterfly looks all assembled. So what if you want to use the butterfly die cut, but you want it to be a little bit smaller? Here's what you can do. I opened the butterfly shape in my Silhouette software, and then I ungrouped the shape. Then I moved all of the holes inside the butterfly off to the side and deleted them, leaving me with just the butterfly shape. Once I had the outline of the butterfly, I made it smaller. You can see it's a little bit smaller than the first butterfly. To this butterfly, we're also going to add a clear button. We'll add that right to the center of the butterfly. And then you can pop up those wings a little bit and then attach that smaller butterfly right below the first butterfly. So we're just creating these fun layers. I want to add a little bit of texture here on the side, so I'm going to lift up this piece of pattern paper, and I'm going to take some crochet twine. You can use baker's twine or whatever you have on hand. Again, this is an extra item that is not included in the kit. So use whatever you have on hand. I'm going to wrap it around about 4 times. That brings some of that white color back into the bottom. And then we can tie it into a bow, and then we'll reattach the paper strip. Once you have it tied, you can manipulate and move that string until you get it where you want. And then I suggest to hold that in place, again, just take a little bit of a glue dot, place it on that very left edge, and then mount it back onto your page. At that point, you can then come back and trim out that excess twine. Now, I wanted to bring in some of the green, so I'm going to use that Fun Pennant ribbon to bring in a little bit of a bright green. Now, I'm already noticing that it's a little longer than I want, so the key with trimming this particular ribbon is you want to pick one of the peaked edges, and following that edge, trim off the extra piece. To attach the ribbon to the page, you simply need to peel off that back sticker holder, that white paper, and then very carefully, holding it on both sides, you can either create a shape, you can go straight, it's up to you. I'm going to create a little bit of a loop, and I'm going to smooth as I go. So this particular ribbon is already ready to go. It has adhesive on the back. To the top of the photo, I'm going to place one of the buttons. Now, the last time I left the holes intact in this particular button, but I'm going to pop them out with a paper piercer. And then I'll place it right on my layout. And then I want to bring in some additional color. So I'm going to bring in a green button and then another little blue button to create some movement and some texture up here. Now for the title, I'm going to use these beautiful foiled alphabet stickers. And you'll notice that I brought in some gold, and there's some hint of bling throughout the page. Let's go ahead and create the title, and then I'll show you what it looks like. To finish up the title, I'm going to add the final M. Here's a layout that uses the Blossoms and Breezes kit. Be sure to look for the additional 2 layout videos, as well as look for the place to download the sketch that corresponds with this particular layout.